I know this is a hot button issue, Obamacare, the politics of medicine, but I'd like to stick to the topic, which is advertising.
The question was, getting back to the topic, are hospitals killing us? I mean, quite frankly, I'll just say I think that's ridiculous. I mean, I work every day with people that give their all to provide the very best care they give. I believe we've got the best healthcare system in the world. When you say, are there mistakes made in any healthcare organization or any system? Of course there are. Does there need to be a commitment to constant improvement, which is to go back and do a root cause analysis on what those mistakes are and see to it that they're not duplicated? But there's just no part of me at all, based on my experience, that would suggest that there is anything widespread like that that's going on that anybody should worry about.
I disagree. I mean, and again, just respectfully, I think there are cases where hospitals are killing people. We saw it in Los Angeles, earlier this year, in that there were scopes, endoscopy scopes, that had gone into a patient and who had a resistant bacteria, and then were transferred to other patients, and many of them died. And so there were actual deaths in hospitals because the scope was designed improperly, wasn't cleaned properly, and there were resistant bacteria. And so I think the notion, and I think what I hope this session will get to, is that we in medicine are not perfect. We in medicine have to get a lot better. And when we start to look at that system, right, resistant bacteria, major problem in the world today. The World Health Organization estimated that there will be 50 million deaths from resistant bacteria in 15, 20 years. The amazing thing is, this is the coolest story ever. So literally 3 days after that announcement, there was a discovery in Maine. It's probably the only scientific discovery ever to come from the state of Maine. Nothing against Maine, my family's from Maine. But, antibiotics all come from bacteria. Bacteria made it to attack other bacteria and to get resources. And we thought we had them all. So this clever group from Maine took back soil and they put it into the cultures. They grew new bacteria that would never grow without soil being in the media. And they identified a new bacteria that had its own antibiotic, and it killed every drug-resistant strain we saw. And so all of a sudden, 3 days after this proclamation, we had a potential answer on it. The hard part, though, is how do we make sure that happens? How do we make sure that this drug, you're a pharmaceutical company, nobody wanted the drug, right? Because you got to save it till every other drug fails. So who wants to do a drug that's only going to be used in a couple hundred people a year? The answer is nobody. So we need to fix that system to make it right. We need to look at hospitals and say, where are the errors happening? And how do we make it better? Because every hospital in the country, the best or the worst, make errors. And how do we learn from it? And classically, our system, we don't go back and say, what did we do right and wrong? We don't go back and say, how do we make it better? You've all been in a hospital where most people have at one point. It's not a fun place, right? The food's not very good. They're waking you up all night, checking your blood pressure. Do we really need a 3 a.m. blood pressure is a question you have to ask. And most of the time the answer is no, but we wake the patient up anyway, even though sleep is probably very important for them. So I do think we need to redo hospitals here. And as you alluded to, you're changing toward the outpatient. Well, that's the trend all over. And, the trend is going to be, I think, even greater. Because right now, when you go to one of the doctor's offices, they draw your blood, they check your blood pressure, they check your weight, they collect data. Then they call you a couple days later with the results. That's not a very efficient system. The office of the future will be, you prick your finger at home, you send it in, you check your blood pressure over a week, you get all of your data, you go in and do something remarkable, which is actually have a discussion.